Amid the vaccinations that are now being dispersed throughout this country and everyone focusing on coronavirus, one thing that has become crystal clear in the light of President-elect Joe Biden talking last night to Americans about getting everything right to heal the soul of the nation is that the old guard of Donald Trump and Republicans has to go. And it's important that all people understand that Black votes do matter. And Black votes actually put Joe Biden in the Oval Office today. And of course, all eyes are looking on Georgia on my mind. So joining me now is someone who's very actively engaged in helping to get out the vote for the January 5th runoff that will determine the outcome of who really controls the Senate. And so joining me now is Cliff Albright. He is the co-founder and executive director of Black Voters Matter. And Cliff, it's so good to have you on this day. And I know you've got a lot to do today. So thanks for stopping by to talk to us about your organization, Black Voters Matter. Tell me about it and how it all began.
Yeah, well, that's a complicated question because, the way that it all began as an organization is we just started technically 4 years ago, in a real sense, 3 years ago after the Alabama Doug Jones, Roy Moore Senate race, where we were one of a couple of organizations that mobilized Black voters that came out and shocked the country, winning that U.S. Senate seat in Alabama. The longer version of the story is that my dear friend and co-founder Latasha Brown and I have been doing this work, this electoral work, this power building work for over 20 years. We met in Alabama, in historic Selma, Alabama. And that's when we first started developing this model and this approach that we take to investing in Black communities that often don't receive attention. We believe that in order to change these states and to change this country, that we can't just focus on the urban areas, although we do work in just about every city in the 15 states where we do work, but we also do work in those rural areas, the Alabama Black Belt, the Mississippi Delta, Southwest Georgia, which is actually where I'm headed in just a little while today. And so we have a belief that Black voters matter everywhere, and that means urban areas, rural areas, that means the popular and the so-called, productive or safe parts of the neighborhoods that people feel comfortable going to. But we also believe we need to go to the other places, the harder work, the places where there are harder conversations, where people have been disengaged and not invested in. We say Black voters matter everywhere. We mean it. And that's what we're trying to demonstrate with this 12 days of Christmas that we're doing between now and January 5th.
You know what, Cliff? It also states that you and your colleague, Latasha, are very much actively engaged in believing that all politics is local, because you're hitting every local area, urban and rural areas, to get out the vote. And how do you think yesterday went, which was Monday, the beginning of early voting there in Georgia for the runoff?
Yeah, we were in Augusta yesterday for the first day of early vote. And in Augusta, just like every place else that we go to, we talk about the national issues, but we talk about the local issues. We talk about the way those national issues show up locally. We talk about the ways that police violence, right, shows up, not just in the sense of like George Floyd, right, or Breonna Taylor, but in terms of like some of the issues and cases and incidents that we've had right here in our cities. An untold story really of this past election cycle is even in Brunswick, Georgia, which is where Ahmaud Arbery was murdered in the midst of Georgia flipping blue. What you also saw was that because of that street protest that took place in response to Ahmaud Arbery's murder, that DA, the first DA that refused to move the case, that tried to bury the case, that DA was on the ballot, and now she's unemployed. She's out of job because Black folks in that area came together, mobilized. They merged the protest politics with the electoral politics. And now at the local level, there's been change. Even in Augusta, where we were yesterday, part of what we were celebrating, one of the speakers we had was the first Black DA to serve the Augusta area, the Richmond County, that judicial circuit had never had a Black DA before. In the home of James Brown, they had never had a Black DA before. Now they have one, and he's the youngest DA in the state. So those types of local elections and those local issues, we organize about ballot initiatives. We help people to get issues on referendum at the local level. We believe the more disengaged a voter is, the more important it is that his or her on-ramp into elections and building power electorally is a local issue that they very much understand, is very concrete, and is near and dear to their hearts.
Man, you are really keeping your foot on the pedal and giving some power to the people and letting people know that Black voters do matter. I'd like you to stay with me. I know you got to run, but I'd like to stay with you for one more break because what you're doing is very important. I want to talk more about the national in national terms of what's going on and what's your reaction to President-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the message that they're trying to send forth to America? How will Black voters matter in the future of America? That's next.
Did you know that 70% of your immune system is located in your gut?